Alright guys, this is going to be my low poly Pokemon Blender tutorial series. And I am super excited to do this because I love sculpting Pokemon and I hope you guys will like watching it. I'm probably going to not make this quite as much of a beginner series as my previous video, but I'll try to give you guys tips and tricks and little artistic character designy advice if you like that. Alright, so right now we're going to start with mirroring the mesh, and you can watch me do my whole setup in a video I'll link in the description because I have a very specific method for setting everything up. And right now, my first and foremost thing I do every single time is I try and make the mesh as close to my illustration as possible because like why would I have drawn it if I wasn't going to do that? And it just, I don't know, it's nice to have guidelines, something to depend on when the art can be this like crazy, you know, metaphorical thing that you can't visualize. And I mean, even as an artist, I have trouble with that. So what I did is I created the legs, and then I deleted the top plane from the legs, and then I extruded where the crotch would be, lol, and I kind of just linked it together from that point. I like to create the bridge between the legs because I like working from bottom to top, just because I think it gives the character more balance. I don't know, I mean, maybe in one of these videos I'll start from maybe like the arm or something and see how much of a catastrophic failure it is. We'll see though. Right here, at this point I'm like kind of struggling a bit with Gengar's profile because I didn't actually get reference for this, so in the future of this video you'll see me getting some reference because I had no idea what this character looked like from the side, even though I've looked at this character so many times. I knew he had a tail, so to create limbs and other body parts, I just take planes and I extrude them. And that's why it's even more important that you make sure your planes are very nice and even though like my preferred method is using shadeless, which you can, here I am looking for the reference. I'm just saving it and popping it in because sometimes you gotta have a crutch somewhere. There's no shame in having references, and I will be the first to tell you that. Because if you don't have references, how are you going to learn? But anyway, what I was saying is, my preferred method of working in Blender is to go to the shadeless tab, and then I switch into rendered view, and you get the view on the left. Which again, you can find in my tutorial series. Even though you can't see the individual planes or even the shadows in with this method, where you put the planes is going to be super vital for extruding things and keeping the silhouette neat. So just keep that in mind, I guess. And here I'm just kind of like pushing and pulling, and make sure when you're extruding, you extrude on an axis so your planes don't get all warped and twisty, because mine do that a lot, and enough trial and error has really bothered me enough to make me anal about keeping the vertices really straight. You can see I'm just kind of pushing and pulling the vertices to match up with the mesh of the character. And I'm pressing Z to check my wireframe often, and I'm pressing 5 to switch. I didn't mention this in my first video, but I press 5 to switch into orthographic camera because it keeps things really tidy and you can see things from all angles without there being distortion, which is really important. So I'm not 100% sure what the benefit of having perspective mode is when you're actually sculpting the character, so I would just recommend staying in orthographic. This video is just going to be me. I probably should have mentioned this in the beginning, but this video is going to be me sculpting the base, and then I'm going to sculpt the details of the face and like the hands and stuff. I think I might do that for most of my videos. I might try switching it up, depending on your guys' suggestions. If you guys have any suggestions, if you want to see a certain Pokemon made, or you want to see me do something a certain way, or you want to see a certain technique, shoot me a comment. I'll see if I can get to it. Yeah. Having the reference was very helpful. And here's another instance where having the planes be very perfectly matched up to where you want them to be is really important. It just makes your life easier in the future, because if you spend time making your vertices really nice in the past, it'll benefit you. And every single video I'm going to stress that just because it's really important. Here I use the knife tool with K to cut up some vertices so I could extrude the hair. But, is that hair? I don't know if that's hair. But I realized that I still have my mirror modifier on, and it's best to just leave things that are not going to be symmetrical until the end. And you gotta be really wise when you're choosing that time, because once you apply that mirror modifier, you can't really go back. And here I'm just making the armholes. I like to make them round by giving them like a hexagonal, is that how you say that word? Shape. I give them 6 edges so they're not like blocky. And here we go with the hands. I have a more in-depth tutorial about hands in my beginner series, but the basic concept is you kind of make a mitten. You extrude just a simple block for the palm, the thumb, and the fingers, and that's it. And you don't think about things as separate entities, but you think of them as one compact thing. If you pressed all your fingers together, it would make one shape. And that's what's happening here. So it's a pretty simple process. Yeah, and then once you have all your masses exactly where you want them to be, I like to extrude once more to make the end joints of the fingers, and then I like to knife cut them, and then I kind of patch up the gaps, goodness, with F, and I add a face, so they're all different little blocks, and it works really well for when you're rigging too, because Blender seems to get it. Like, yeah, these are fingers; they should move like fingers. So in the future, I'll make rigging tutorials too, I think, with this method, and you'll see that this works out pretty well. I've gone through quite a lot of trial and error to see what things rig well and what things don't, and the process I tend to use is, it tends to work out, so don't worry too much. I got your back. But yeah, I just kind of like box cut the fingers, and I gave them a face with F, and I kind of spread them apart a little bit. And again, you can find a full tutorial about that, slow down, and with an in-depth explanation in the description. And here I'm just kind of pushing and pulling, and I'm just about done. And in the next video, we'll be working on his face and his teeth and his overall sense of humor. Alright, join me then, guys.